3 years have passed since the Japanese pollution incident, from the initial strong protests and accusations, to the gradual fading of memories, and only 3 years have passed. People have begun to walk into the Japanese restaurant on a pleasant Friday night to taste the latest stolen salmon, but no one has noticed that it has quietly arrived. On August 24, 2026, a super typhoon was rare in the Pacific Ocean, and the United Nations named it the Beast. There are still 7 days from the arrival of the typhoon in Modu under a rare heavy rain, the thunder outside, the heavy rain from the heavy clouds in and out. I can no longer sleep. Open the mobile phone, shows that there is still 10% electricity. Because of the heavy rainstorm today, the circuit of the community where I live is rushed to repair. I do not know how long it will be repaired. Company group to build a group of news, one after another pop up. The door of the second company at 8 o'clock in the morning. Do not come to count as absenteeism. I long press off the mobile phone, and lie down for a while. Hunger forced me to climb up from the bed. Has been 10 o'clock at night. The day outside is restless, showing a gorgeous ghost of purple. 3 years have passed since the sewage was discharged, and as early as 6 months after the discharge, the United States announced the development of the latest health radiation vaccine, and only authorized Europe and the United States. One by one, our colleagues went to the United States for vaccination, but only interns like me, who just started work, did not take action because of poverty. He started cramping because of hunger. Clutching my stomach, I went to the kitchen and pulled a package of frozen dumplings from the freezer. The power outage has been less than a day, and the food in the frozen layer shows no signs of melting. Taking the dumplings to the stove, I found that the gas was also removed. I quickly took out all the water in the house to store. For a time, the empty room was filled with the sound of rushing water, and I had a headache and only felt noisy. Biological instincts remind me that my body is hungry. Wearing a raincoat, I took the delivery cart, but the little cash on my body went downstairs. The drainage facilities in the city are very good, and there is almost no water in the neighborhood, but the strange smell in the air makes my already uncomfortable stomach twitch even more. I hurried to the neighborhood supermarket that was about to close. The supermarket owner was sleepy, there were no customers this day, and even takeout orders could not take the shift due to power outage. See me come, the boss is not interested. The reception swept me a glance, yawn, and wait for me to check out. I will be on the shelf of bread, milk, instant noodles, sausage, since High Pot and other vegetarian reported to the front desk. The boss took out a calculator to calculate the money for me manually. I went to the other shelves to continue to move cans, juice, eggs and other food that did not need to be processed by myself. After almost moving the shelves empty, the boss finally played some spirit. There are discount vegetables, want? I shook my head. When I left, another person came in, a middle-aged woman whom I had met earlier in the supermarket, when I bought a bunch of vegetarian food just like today. She bought food with her daughter in the vegetable area next to her. I passed by, listening to her whispered education. Daughter, mother does not want you to grow up like that. Brother, eat bread and instant noodles every day. You have to learn to cook, so nutritious and healthy, you know. But at this time his face sallow, looked trance, as if did not see me, stumbling straight to the fast food area. I heard him gasp and mumble what he said. I did not hear clearly, only in the next sentence of crying scattered in the night, it is to my life. In the second year of the pollution, the global crop due to the situation and reached 54.3% of the mutation rate. The world is gradually divided into two groups, one conservative, before the nuclear pollution is cured, no longer eat crops. Living on some specific and unpalatable foods is a radical hardship. People are meant to die, and it is better to live comfortably on fresh vegetables. I have been very conservative, 3 years did not eat any fresh vegetables, all rely on vitamins to maintain, although all the should be made up, but the body is still getting worse and worse. Not to walk a few steps, I will sweat, panting, after home, put into a big shape on the floor to lie down, adjust breathing, sweat drop by drop from all parts of my body, as if life with sweat also from the hair, fingers, between the calf flow, and finally nothing left, only in the next pale bloated me. There was a sudden storm outside, and a clap of thunder broke through the sky of the magic capital with an earth-shattering force, and I found myself asleep on the floor. Unconsciously it has been more than 12 midnight, I am all out of strength, barely ate a bag of meat flog bread, just feel better. Before going to bed, I looked up, sick eyes outside, the sky is like a basin, leaking a little, will continue to save a few years of rain pouring down. The sky is no longer the sky, the earth is no longer electricity, the storm last night seems to be a dream, the sky is particularly clear. The phone plugged the charging line before going to bed. I do not know when the rush to repair success last night, at this time has been full power, the kitchen gas has also been restored. I boiled the frozen dumplings I took out last night and forgot to put back, dumplings turned overnight, long ago stuck together, pulled out from the pot, the 10-year-old was not like, the company built groups one by one, colleagues recovered, only I have not recovered, I seem to have more than a typhoon landing memory. Turn off the mobile phone, I choose to continue to play dead, but the department manager soon private chat small window me, in fact, I have some disappointment for you, let you into our company, is to see your team cooperation ability, if you want to grow, not by doing your job can do it, of course, to do more colleague relationship is not bad for you. Now, your output is a little thing compared to other interns, which others will not tell you, I have expectations for you to tell you this. Thinking of the current employment environment, thinking of the expensive cost of vaccines to the United States, I gave in. I replied in a large group, last night on the community power outage before the boot, must actively participate in this group building. The department manager was obviously satisfied with my answer, and drew a pile of flatbread for me. I ended the morning at random, and in the afternoon I began to tidy up the luggage for the group construction tomorrow. Magic is the seaside city, said to be built, in fact, is to rent a seaside villa, sleep one night back the next day. I have not been vaccinated against radiation, and I have been eating a vegetarian diet for the past few years, basically avoiding fresh seafood and vegetables. I packed 3 meals of bread in my bag, 2 boxes of instant noodles, and some gauze, iodophor, and a change of clothes. Even if the luggage was packed, while eating dinner, the news reported that Philippine fishermen found unidentified creatures in the sea and had blocked the customs. I cleaned the powder in the bowl, turned my head and began to clean the house, until lying in bed at 12 o'clock at night, closed my eyes, and suddenly felt uneasy. Human memory and logic have been getting worse and worse since the sewage, and the news reports are ringing in my head like a magic voice, and I always feel like I'm missing something. The next morning, I came to the office. I met at the door, because I slept late yesterday, my head was groggy, and I was in pain. I had to close my eyes and rest under the tree. When I woke up, I found that only 7 people came this time, and the group began to ask for leave one after another. Some of them spent the night in the emergency room because their family members had a high fever last night, and some of them died 4 times in the second department. I was just informed that today was the last chance. Looking at the livid face of the boss, I even wanted to slip away while no one was looking. The department manager was busy and asked me to quickly hand out everyone's breakfast. The boss finally waved a big hand. 7 of us took the 22 bus, to the seaside villa, because there are few people, we 1 room, I chose a room with a balcony on the 2nd floor, this room is not pleasant, is the back of the sea, can only see the villa behind the lush palm trees, others put their luggage to the seaside play. I did not vaccinate, cannot go to the sea, then a person in the house to play mobile phone, at 12 o'clock at noon, the lunch was sent over in advance, the table was set up, I set out, the sea called others back. After the rainstorm, the weather is more clear, the whole sea is as soft as fine silk, slightly swaying ripples, the distant sail shadow in the sun under the silver glitter, the sky and the sea seem to blend, the the boss and the department manager in the beach sun, others in the shallow water play. When I got here, he obviously didn't wake up, chirping that he'd come back after dinner. Before leaving, I looked back at the sea. The distant sea hit a wave, came suddenly. Momentum is still enough, like something heavy to bring the aftertaste. As soon as the meal was finished, everyone went on. I stayed at the beach to clean up the dishes, and the boss was satisfied with my performance and only praised the intern for his future. The manager laughed with a group of people, and jabber with swimming equipment and go to the sea. I clear the table and go upstairs for a nap. But before long, I was awakened by the sound downstairs. I took out my mobile phone to take a look. Only 3:30 in the afternoon. The boss told me before leaving, dinner is delivered at 6. About 7 o'clock I go to call them back. Everyone should bring things should be brought. Who will come back at this time? I went downstairs with my phone, and that's when I realized everyone was back. The boss had a black face and the manager was dressing his wound. I looked down and saw blood stains on the yellow tiles, and several colleagues had different bites on their ankles and legs, which looked very painful. Because the wound was not treated in time, the periphery has redness. I quickly took out mineral water from the refrigerator to help them clean their wounds, and one of them was relieved and shaking. They were playing very well before, and suddenly a large number of sea creatures were stranded on the beach, and they felt interesting at that time, and they stood in the water to take pictures of fish in the shallow sea, and then the creatures in the water became more and more crazy, desperate to the shore. It should be a small shark. After the fish found that they could not bite the fish and began to bite us. I was the first to get bitten, and then more and more people got bitten, so we came back quickly. I watched my colleagues frown, always feeling that this speculation is not true. Without waiting for me to think about it, the manager came to inform the boss, and a car came to pick everyone up to the hospital an hour later, and everyone's face got better. I helped with the iodophor in the bag, and treated the wounds of the more seriously injured, and everyone went back to their rooms to rest. Lying on the bed in the house, the mixture of Haifeng's idle device and smell slowly but surely came into my nose, and my phone began to push the news that the Philippines had closed all the exits, and I became more and more irritated, and finally just paced by the bed. The sky was getting dark, it was past the agreed time, the car sent by the boss still did not come to pick me up. I did not suffer any injuries. It was only because I was bound by responsibility and morality to stay with everyone. Now I am also a little urgent, and then later, the hospital will be off work. The night to go to the emergency must not, now go to the general treatment wound better. Repeatedly tangled, I still dialed the boss's phone. The phone rang for a long time without a knot, until I played the third time, and finally someone answered. The voice on the other end of the line was very fast, and I only heard a few words about hospitals and infections. I then realized that the boss had gone to the hospital in the first place, rather than waiting for the car to pick him up in some room in the villa. I hurried to ask before the other party hung up the phone. My colleagues, they were also injured, still waiting for the patient to send a car. Should I let them now hurry to take a taxi to the hospital? The phone was quiet for a moment, and I could only hear the sound of rapid breathing there. My hand was already sour because of too much effort, but I was holding the phone and did not dare to change my hand. I was just about to ask again, there came a dry voice, "You don't speak." The room was quiet for a moment, silence deep into my pores, let my hair stand up. I realized the villa was too quiet. "You're with your colleagues now, aren't you?" I dare not answer. The other end of the phone lowered the voice, "Now leave your belongings, afraid to get out of there." Then the phone was cut off. I have never been so cold, so calm that I can recall little by little details that I had not paid attention to before. The boss was in a cold sweat and the manager was breathing heavily as he told me what had happened, while uncontrollable muscle spasms. But haven't they been vaccinated? I looked at the closed door and heard the sound of fingernail matting. I gave myself 10 seconds to think, and then I threw the quilt off the second floor balcony. Downstairs is the lawn. The quilt landing sound is not large, I quietly wait for a few seconds, see no. Immediately climb over the railing and squat down, slowly reaching down with your hands. There is still a distance between the second floor and the first floor, my arm has no strength. In order to prevent the butt from falling down and breaking the tail vertebra, my heart is a horizontal, bending the knee to take the initiative to open his hand. Fortunately, the ground is long. I also threw the quilt cushion in advance, in addition to the pain from the legs and the dizziness of the head, but also strong support to run. The moist heat of the air hit me, and it felt like layers of paper towels were smeared in my face and I couldn't breathe. The temperature outside was unusually high, burning my skin. I did not dare to look back and ran straight to the road, and there was the sound of heavy objects falling behind me, and a smell came over me, and I realized that the taste of the villa before was from them. I'm desperate, I need to move faster, the air in my chest is getting thinner, my eyelids are gradually secreting sweat, eroding my eyelashes, forcing me to close my eyes, and if I do, I die. I clenched my teeth against the pain in my eyes and continued to run, staring ahead. I do not know how long I ran, the things behind me gradually fell further and further away, there was a police car in front of me, I took the opportunity to stop, and finally gathered up the courage to turn back, only one glance, I almost went limp on the ground. It was a human monster, covered in fish scales that glistened greasy in the sun. At the moment, he was standing at the intersection staring at us, and the policeman from the car had arrived. He was wearing his colleague's clothes. The sky is getting darker, the sea is getting bigger and bigger, the temperature is gradually falling, the whole night dream corridor scenic area was pulled up a long warning line, blue and red lights constantly flashing, stimulating my senses. My head was getting sore, I was wearing the coat given to me by the police, I was standing on the edge of the police line, countless live flashlights and selfie sticks surrounded me, a live screen floating in front of me. How can only demons smell? Are we the only ones that smell? My head suddenly began to hurt, and in the end, the information in my brain exploded, and the bits and pieces of information I had collected before began to piece together. Although the image of the fish man is terrible, but the attack force is not high, even I can escape. A large number of marine life in the South China Sea have become stranded, usually forced ashore by predators. Is there something scarier in the sea than fishmen? The Philippines is very close to the South China Sea, whether it will run aground or not has something to do with the reason why they sealed it. The huge wave in the distance at noon is likely to appear giant creatures, and the increasingly rich smell could just be the infection is just an appetizer, and the truly terrible thing is still behind. A thread in my brain became a thought, and I looked almost uncontrollably north toward the coast not far away. But I figured it out too late, the lights were still flashing, but gradually swallowed me. The phone in my pocket vibrates, and if I turn it on, I see an official warning, but I don't get a chance to turn on the hill-high shadow. In an instant, the lights dimmed, I saw his body with countless sea creatures of the dead, with his movement of overwhelming death from the sky, smashing into the screaming crowd. The ear of the gun sounded, I roll, and crawl squatting in the nearest corner, not a few seconds, a scream through the entire magic. In an instant, I was so shocked that I fell to the ground, with blood spilling from one ear. Before I fainted, I found that I was deaf, and I don't know how long I was unconscious. The next time I opened my eyes, I was surrounded by rubble, and where I was a triangle, and I had survived the gap. I half lay on my stomach and retched several times, and I didn't come out and wipe the dried blood on my nose and mouth. After a few minutes, I crawled out of the cement ruins. The sky was a ghost red, I could not tell whether it was morning or night, the blood in my eyes stained the field of vision, and the large dark red on the street declared the tragedy during my faint. My phone's turned off, and it's blue on my back. The red sky and the crumbling buildings made me feel like the end of the world was coming. I tottered in the direction of home with only one thought in my mind: I want to go home and get the money, I want to buy the plane ticket, I want to buy the ferry ticket, I want to live, I want to buy my life. I do not know how long I walked mechanically, the earth trembled, and I hid from experience in a corner, and the limbs of the monster crawled past me, his toes connected to the webbed frog, but more sharp, his limbs laid out on the side of his body, more like a narrow guide, his skin inlaid with scales, each of them sharp. I tried to get a full view of him. On top of the limbs was his more deformed body, the whole body was thick and bare, and it was disgusting to look at. The larynx is filled with a huge mouth part, a mouth with tens of thousands of dagger-like teeth. Just a glance can feel the lethality of flying wings. The previous mutants were neither disgusting nor effective in front of him. At this moment, my body could not stop shaking. But worse was yet to come.